Peet van der Merwe from Northwest University, from a School of Tourism Management. Prof Andrea Simon, who worked with me on this project, and she's from the School of Economic Sciences. The title of my talk today is How Much Do Hunters Spend in South Africa? Of my presentation today are as follows. First, I'm going to look at the aim of the study. Then we're going to have a short literature review part. I'm going to discuss the method, the results of a study, the findings, and in the end, I'm going to give a couple of conclusions regarding the research. As hunting in South Africa plays such an enormous role in wildlife tourism and natural-based tourism in South Africa, we conducted a study to determine the spending of international hunters and local hunters in South Africa. The last research conducted in this field was in 2017-18 season. So after COVID-19, we thought it would be great to update this data regarding the spending of the hunters in South Africa. The literature background, it's important to state where does wildlife tourism fit into. It fits under, according to Newsom et al. 2013, under natural area tourism, which consists basically of 4 pillars: ecotourism, wildlife tourism, geotourism, and adventure tourism. The current research is focusing on wildlife tourism pillar. If one looks at the definition of wildlife tourism according to Higginbottom 2004, wildlife tourism is based on encounters with non-domestic animals, either with animals in captivity or in their natural environment. This includes non-consumptive and consumptive wildlife tourism, which includes then hunting and fishing sort of activities as well as photographic safaris. In South Africa, wildlife tourism are basically taking place in two areas of conserved in 2 role players. One is the government-owned protected areas such as national parks and provincial parks, and then also in the private sector of private protected areas. According to some of the references studied, it is estimated that the land conserved by the private sector is 3 or 4 times more than that conserved by the public sector. If one look at the land conserved by national parks, it's more or less 5 or 6 million hectares, and it's estimated that private-owned land contribute close to some sources indicating 15 million hectares, some say 20 million hectares. However, it is clear that private sector land under conservation are much more under the private sector versus that of the government-owned protected areas. Some of the other African countries or countries overseas like America and Europe, we are allowed in South Africa to own wildlife. This is due to the Game Theft Act 105 of 1991, which states that people can own wildlife if they've got correct fence surrounding the farm. This is a new, unique aspect and also contribute to the diverse wildlife form in hunting and tourism that we do have in South Africa. The focus of this research is, however, on hunting tourism. As the latest research, as previously indicated, was conducted in 2017-18, and there was a need to update the status of the spending of hunters in South Africa. Research. The method that this research followed was quantitative sampling, namely non-probability sampling and in the form of convenience sampling. Now, 2 surveys were conducted amongst the local hunters or South African hunters as well as international hunters. This survey ran from June 2022 until August 2023. The link of these questionnaires was distributed online. At the end of the day, we were lucky to receive 1,685 respondents from the local hunters and also 415 respondents from the international hunters, which is far more than it's needed. Most of the references or researchers indicated that around about 300 to 350 questionnaires is more than enough to do well analysis or good analysis with the data. of a talk focus on the results. Now, the results are divided into 4 sections. The first one, we're going to look at the profile of both group of hunters. We can also look at the place of origin, where do they come from. We're also going to look at the popular species hunted, and in the end, we're going to look at their spending. First, we're going to look at the results of the local hunters, of South African hunters. Mainly males, 97% are male. This correlates with previous research which we've done since 2005. That is mostly a male-dominant type of tourism activity. The average age of the hunters is 47 years of age. 82% are married. An average length of stay is 4.16 nights. Average number of hunting trips per year is 2.73 trips per year. And the most preferred provinces to hunt is Limpopo, Northwest, Free State, and the Northern Cape. Again, as I stated, previous research conducted by us correlates well with these studies over 2023 surveys that we've done. Part of the international hunter. Again, as you can see, it correlates with the South African hunter. 89% were male. Average age, 57 years of age. So you can see it's like about 10 years older than the South African hunters, the average age. 81% are married. They hunted in South Africa 3 times in the last 10 years. So we can see it is return visitors to South Africa, which is good for the tourism industry and the hunting industry. Their preferred provinces, Limpopo Province, Eastern Cape, Free State, and Northern Cape. So from correlations with the South African hunters, we can see that Limpopo Province remains the most important hunting destination. However, with the international hunters, Eastern Cape came out strongly in second place, where with the South African hunters, Eastern Cape was one of the last provinces to hunt in. The Northern Cape is also an important one for this hunting group as well. The average number of trophies that the respondents collected during their hunting career is 20 trophies. The place of origin, meaning where does the hunters come from the South African point of view, or for the South African hunters, Gauteng is the most of the province where most of the hunters came from. This is not news, as the previous research that we conducted also confirmed that Gauteng is the major province from where tourists and hunters come. And as I said, it correlates with normal tourism statistics, that Gauteng is one of our major provinces from where our visitors come from. Second year was the Western Cape, and then Mpumalanga, and this was also followed by Northwest and the KwaZulu-Natal provinces. Looking at the international hunter, it is clearly that 83% of respondents came from the USA. This was followed with Canada, UK, even South Africa and Belgium and Australia. In previous research that we conducted in 2017, there was also preference or people from the Middle East that came to hunt in South Africa. It is very important here to note that we see no hunters from the international market from African countries. And this therefore is a huge advantage for hunting operations in South Africa to start market into the African continent. Again, looking at previous research that we've conducted, the top 10 species that South African hunters hunt more or less stayed the same. Here is the top 5 for this survey. First, springbok, 5,085 was hunted by this sample population. Impala, 4,534. Warthog, 2,657. Blesbok, 2,630. And blue wildebeest, 2,091 species of animals were hunted. Looking at the international hunter, we can see some of the species are the same than those of the South African hunter. Again, comparing with previous research that we've conducted, the top 10 species again stay more or less the same. This time around, Blesbok came in first with 602 being hunted, blue wildebeest 366, Impala 290, Springbok 283, and Kudu 255. This is for the sample population of the respondents of this survey. Of the local hunters in South Africa, it was interesting to note that from the research done in 2017-18, this average spending of hunters increased by almost 10,000 rand to 63,282 rand. This is for animals hunted as well as general expenses like transport, accommodation, and also beverages. If this is multiplied by the estimated 200,000 hunters, which we normally work with, it translates into 12.6 billion rand per year that is generated by the South African hunters. It is also important to note that this is almost increased by 1.5 billion compared to the previous research which we've conducted in 2018. When looking at the spending of international hunters, it's important to note that we excluded spending costs to South Africa, like the travel costs to South Africa, as this is a leakage. We, however, included pre- and post-tour spending to South Africa, as this is part of their spending in South Africa. At the end of the day, the average respondent spent $25,473 in South Africa. This translates to 450,000 rand. If this is multiplied by the number of international hunters to South Africa, and I must just state here that we worked on the stats prior to COVID in 2019, 8,500 international hunters visited South Africa. We're still awaiting the stats for 2022. This translates to $216 million that is spent in South Africa. If this is multiplied by the average exchange rate between the rand and the dollar, it translates to 3.8 billion rand that is spent by the international hunter in South Africa. This brings us to the total economic contribution of hunting for the 2022 and 2023 season. This is including the South African hunters and international hunters, and translate to almost 16.5 billion rand. This is quite an increase since the previous research that we've done, which was in the vicinity of about 13 billion rand per year. So one can clearly see the importance of hunting and wildlife tourism to South Africa's economy. Look at the findings of research. The first year, as I just said in the previous slide, the spending of hunters has increased since the previous research that we conducted by 2.8 billion rand. If we look at our international market, it's mainly from the USA. It's quite interesting to note that there's no African continent is not present in any of the statistics of this study and previous work that we've conducted. Previous reports from 2017 did indicate that some hunters do arrive from the Middle East. Therefore, there's a huge market opportunity for the African market to attract African hunters to South Africa. It is also important to look at the statistic from the local hunters, which were mainly from Gauteng, and also mainly Afrikaans-speaking South Africans. Although the study didn't test race, we can sort of derive from the study that there's a lack of African people hunting in the hunting industry. And it's very important to ask why. Why are there absence of African hunters and African people? Although from the history, they grew up with hunting, it's part of their tradition. And I foresee that this is a possible market that can be tapped into in the future to attract African people and African nations to come and hunt in South Africa. We must also ask ourselves, do they belong to hunting organizations? And if not, one must see why do they don't belong to hunting organizations. And again, as I stated, it's important to tap into this market from Africa. What is even more important looking from economics perspective and job creation perspective is that from the provinces identified where hunting do take place, we can see it's rural provinces. Therefore, hunting plays an enormous role in job creation and economic wealth in the rural areas where normally we don't find big tourism products like Sun City or some of the other tourism attractions we do have in South Africa. And this they play a very important role in job creation, as I just stated. The preferred provinces, domestic hunters, Limpopo, Northwest Free State, and the international hunters, Limpopo, Eastern Cape, and the Free State. At the end of the day, from the sample population of 1,682, if I can remember correctly, respondents, 23,000 353 animals were hunted by local hunters, and from our 416 or more or less international respondents, 3,681 animals were hunted. In total, 27,014 animals were hunted in the 22-23 season by hunters in South Africa. As stated in the start of the talk, the aim of the study was to determine the economic contribution of hunting to SA's economy, and as you clearly stated in the study, it contributed quite a huge amount. Increased from the last surveys conducted. This may be due to the rand-dollar exchange, that where the rand is weakened against the dollar, and also due to, if we look at South African hunters increase, this can be due to the increase of living cost, for example, petrol and food. Important again to highlight that the role of hunting plays in rural areas, and from our research it can be concluded that the African hunting market is totally absent, and this is an enormous opportunity to tap into the African continent as hunters to come and hunt in South Africa. Thank you, and have a nice day.